Well, it probably comes as no surprise what I would currently consider the best tech tree cruiser at tier 6 to be. Russian bias is on the screen today in the form of tier 6 Talon. Oh, and the game in the background you might want to stick around for, as it was just shy of the world damage record. Welcome back to Legends, I'm Derka, and let's jump right in. Talon, the stepping stone to Riga, is on the screen today, and we're going to show off just how great she is. Maybe in need of a little nerf? We'll talk about it. But before we do, let's check out our ship setup. It is a free kind of day today, guys. Free ship, free commander build. We are using Nikolai Kuznetsov, Norman Scott, and Mimbelli to pump out the damage with these amazing 180mm guns. You could, of course, use fully packed if you want the other consumables, but we're using refill station as it reduces the reload by 1 full second on this build. Our ship modules. Aiming systems mod 1 and a double rudder for this game, although after watching this gameplay back and seeing kind of how I did things, it'd probably benefit from having the prop mod to take off quicker. So yes, everything is straight for DPM, and I get asked this a lot about individual ship builds. If you would check the description in every single video that I've ever made, the ship build is typed out for you. Alright, so we're going to deep dive the stats on Talon because I want to show off to you guys just how strong this thing is, and I'm sure most of you already know. We can talk about some gameplay tips, but first, let's set the game in the background up on Islands of Ice. Now, as I see Talon, long-range heavy gun cruiser that does phenomenal when you can find broadsides, so generally that means playing by getting out on a flank so you can really smash some reds, and that is exactly what we tried to do here in this game. There are other ways to play her, but honestly, this is how I've had the most success, and I think the gameplay should speak for itself as you watch some of these insane salvos that we get as a reward for good positioning. Alright, let's check out some stats tables. Now keep in mind the individual builds stayed on these ships, so sometimes it's apples to oranges, it really is, and it might also differ from your setup. Of course, I didn't go in and change any of this stuff, so take the charts and the stats with a grain of salt. Okay, stats wise, health points, 36k is great for a tier 6 cruiser. It's one of the best in this regard. On top of that, the armor scheme is good. I have spent a long time looking at the armor viewer recently on tier 6 ships, so you don't have to. A York video recently, a Belfast, and a Tiger 59 video. Talon has a very solid armor scheme, especially as tier 6 cruisers goes. She is leaps and bounds better than any American, Japanese, or I would say Brit cruisers until Tiger 59 came along with the decent amount of bow armor. But Talon is an Admiral Hipper hull. It's not quite as good or as tanky as the Prince Eugen or Hipper. It looks more like the Mainz' armor scheme. Turtleback armor, of course, will help you with the citadels, a 25mm bow, a 40mm icebreaker, and a 27mm deck. So most light cruiser guns from any non-German nation will shatter on the deck. That is assuming 6-inch or 152mm guns. So, pretty robust armor scheme. The guns, though, are where this thing really shines. The gun range with Kuznetsov as my commander and a triple booster, 18.3. Eat your heart out, Iowa. Shell velocity is also nuts, and it's, very Soviet-esque, 920 meters per second. I know sometimes these arbitrary numbers don't mean anything, so let's compare it to one of the better heavy cruisers in the game, the USS Baltimore. Balti's shell velocity is about 200 meters per second less. So what does this mean? In Talon, we're shooting 18.8 kilometers at a Nelson. This cruiser, our shells are going to make it to him in less than 10 seconds. Now we take this same shot in the Baltimore, and the shells will take 15 seconds. That's 5 full seconds longer. Now on top of that, even though the Balti has bigger guns, they're 203s, in Talon we're going to punch through 200 millimeters of armor, while the Baltimore will only get through about 150. Okay, moving on. One thing we can find to complain about on the Talon is the Soviet high explosive shells. They are really terrible. 2,500 damage, 11% fire chance, so just don't use them. Problem solved. I would say most of the time in this ship you want to have the armor-piercing shells loaded. Each shell is going to hit for 5,100 damage, max damage, and that is really only beaten out by the York and the Cheshire at tier 6. Overall, damage output is pretty middle of the pack with the slower reload of 12.3 seconds on this build, but still it's a respectable damage output about in the middle for all of the tier 6 cruisers. Torpedoes are something else that we could possibly complain about. The Talon, like other Soviet cruisers, they are essentially suicide torps. They only have a 4-kilometer range. But with 5 on each side, any ship that rushes you at point blank range will have to be very careful. AA rating, it's 80. And I know, again, this is a pretty arbitrary number, but looking up some of the hidden statistics, damage per second of this AA is 207, meaning it has a higher AA damage output than the Atlanta or the Tiger 59, who were both historically light cruiser anti-air platforms. So if that kind of puts things into perspective, the AA is very, very good on Talon. Maneuverability is very Soviet cruiser-esque. 34 knot top speed or slightly below, and a 900 meter turning circle is the worst cruiser at the tier by a ways. It almost ties with the turning circle of an Iowa-class battleship. The rudder shift, it's average, and the concealment is, of course, terrible, 12.8 kilometers. So on paper, we could see how this could be a great ship, right? Well, let's check back into the game, and I would like to draw your attention to some of these salvos on battleships at super long ranges. You know, at the opening salvos of the game against the Iowa and the Nelson, they were all 10,000 damage apiece. And with damage like that coming out every 12.3 seconds, this ship is truly terrifying. Even battleships have to respect you. And that is part of the reason why this game went so well for me. No one really paid me any attention. There were always other ships that were closer, other blue team members that were taking the brunt of it and the heat for me. And that just allowed me to stay back here and, you know, silently start racking up all of this damage. Now, of course, we know damage does not win games, and that's going to be evident as this one progresses. Now, the Blues and I have done pretty decent over here on the A side of thing. Seaside Blues got dumpstered, and the Brandenburg on the enemy team is having a heyday over there, and actually ends this game with the Kraken against my team. Now, this Brandenburg at the border has got to go because he has captured the attention of half of my team at this point, and they are chasing him to the nether regions, so he definitely had to die. Really, the focus needs to go over here towards the reds that are coming across the middle of the map as they've cleaned up C. Now, earlier I mentioned playstyle of Talon, and it's true. You do not have to be a backline Betty all of the time. You can find some good results in medium ranges and even get your 9-kilometer radar into play when closer. And here we popped our radar. I was trying to see where these enemy battleships, if one of them had been pushing me, but alas, no, they are not. Now, the issue with getting in closer into medium ranges is being able to tank damage. After all, it's a tier 6 cruiser, and you're going to have trouble, especially if you're up tiered like in this match, and you have Iowas, Nelsons, and even inaccurate Brandenburgs smacking you for 20k, kind of like that. On that note, giving up broadside can be very, very detrimental to your health. That is a common trait of all Soviet ships, of course, so just be careful there. Yes, Talon's armor not as good as Riga or Stalingrad, so being up close in kind of a bow tanking position sometimes does not work. Now here, sitting in this position where I am, I was trying to keep the Nelson and the Gneisenau on the other side of that island so that I could finish off the Cleveland. And of course, having a double rudder, this ship does not start and stop very quickly, so there is a place where I see using Propulsion Mod being more helpful to you in your gameplay. I knew that I kind of needed to vacate this spot, but just couldn't take off quickly enough. So yes, once again, Prop Mod would probably be the better choice. I would say there's only a few games that I've had in her where I found myself in kind of a flowing gameplay. Usually it's more like this game. You find a good position, you kind of take that position up and hold it, usually on a flank, and starting and stopping could be your main way of dodging shells rather than kiting or snaking back and forth. Now, the rear firing angles are okay, so if you're kind of positioned this way, you can bounce some shells and hopefully dodge some others. Back to the game. Currently, our Scharnhorst just died, so we have a Cleveland, a little bit behind me here, a Brandenburg headed towards B cap, hopefully going to take out that Nelson for me, against an enemy Nelson, G-Wagon, B-Berg. Reds have the cap control, and with our Scharnhorst dying, they have the points lead. Unfortunately, I'm just not in a position where I can really push up. I don't have enough health, thanks to my not being able to escape the Brandenburg salvo. So if the timer keeps running, we are going to lose this one on points. Now we'll see how things progress here as the Brandenburg sails towards me, trying to get his, I don't know, 6th kill of the game at this point. And I'm just going to try to keep him right on the other side of the rocks so I can help my teammates. The next topic of discussion. I am curious, after hearing the statistics, playing her yourself, watching other people on YouTube play her, you know, whatever your experience is with Talon, do you think she is balanced? Do you think she's overcooked? Weak? I'm curious to hear your thoughts, so pause the video and leave them in the comment section down below. Alright, did you write them down? Okay. Honestly, I think this is now the best tech cruiser. These guns easily outperform any other heavy cruiser gun at the tier with their crazy ballistics and armor penetration. She has a great armor scheme. She has sonar, radar, and some of the best anti-aircraft defense at the tier. I think Talon's release in this state just power crept every other cruiser at tier 6. Again, this is my personal opinion. Okay, back to the game at hand. Brandenburg's playing this perfectly. They're now in the cap, they're stopping me from getting any other points, and I'm gonna have to come out and play. Unfortunately, with only 4-kilometer torpedoes, they're basically useless, especially if you're fighting against a Brandenburg. So what I'm hoping to do, get this guy's attention, and if he can come around the corner, I'm just gonna try to blap him with one good salvo. Now, I've waited till now to really talk about this, but if you've noticed, we are using intuitive. I think this is one of the most underutilized perks for cruisers because most people want to use igniter, but it lets me know exactly what this Brandenburg is doing and sets up the next few seconds. Our damage number is 165,000. At the time of me sitting here recording this, the damage record for Talon was 194,775. Now we're going to end this game with, well, you'll just have to see. Salvo away on B-Berg, quickly turn away, we get the kill. So that guy's reign of terror is over and he left me with 6,100 health. The last ship, a nearly full health Gneisenau that can easily tank my shells and kind of wiggle around and oh boy, yeah. So really not what you want to see with a minute left, down 300 points, but it is what it is. Now, I'm sure at this point it is obvious that with our 900-meter turning circle and slow speed, we're not going to be able to kill this Gneisenau. So, a bit of a heartbreaker. If it were a win, it would have been about 3,300 or so base XP, I believe. But alas, it is a heartbreaking loss, and it happens, guys. If you liked the presentation, if you enjoyed the video, smash that thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe for future videos. I am really enjoying the Talon. I think it is a great ship, although I think it is completely the embodiment of Soviet bias in World of Warships, but I'll be curious to hear what you guys think down below in the comment section. And with that, I will catch you in the next video. See ya.